Mesotora walked towards the center of the room, grasping the blade by its hilt and lifting it from the rack upon which it sat. It had been a great deal of time since he had held the blade, not having any reason as he hadn't left the castle in 10 years. But its hilt was familiar to him, like an old friend that he was seeing for the first time in a long time. As he held the blade aloft, beginning to admire the beauty of the craftsmanship for the first time in over 10 years, the intricate woven grip, the long, fine blade, extending out 6 foot, a double-sided blade that seemed to shimmer with rainbow-like ripples in the light. He could already begin to feel the energy of the blade pulsating, stirring from its long slumber. With a single hand, he swung the sword down quickly, not all the way to the ground, stopping just before impact. As he did, just the swing of the blade sent a pulse, a wave of wind surging out from the direction in which he swung the sword, causing everything in the room to move and shift just a bit. With his one free hand, he raised it up, extending his fingers, and then grasping, as if the air itself was a physical substance that he could touch, and then raking his nails through it. As he did, it was as if he was tearing away at the fabric of reality, tearing flaming rips into the air, the flames from these tears beginning to engulf his entire form, circling and whirling around him, as the ornate and exceptionally powerful armor that he donned formed itself around his body, cloaking him in a mesh of gold and red armor, the plates of which shined immaculately, almost seeming to glow in the light that surrounded him. And with no more wasted time, he placed the blade on his back and began making his way towards the royal guest hall, where the Iron King was waiting. As he made a quick march in the direction of the royal guest hall, all those he passed in the corridors took note of him, for the first time in more than 10 years donning his full armor, carrying with him that legendary blade. They were shocked, some frightened, wondering what could have caused this dramatic change, why the mightiest warrior in the kingdom looked prepared for battle. But Mesotora took no time to explain. He had more important things to attend to. In no time at all, he found himself outside of the royal guest hall. The large wooden doors with golden knockers, which he had no hesitation whatsoever in opening. And as he stepped inside, there he was, dressed as people had usually come to expect him to, donning a full set of black obsidian armor. The cold iron had no shine to it. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was as if the armor itself sucked the light out of the room around him, as if the shadow clung to his form, drifting out of the gaps in the armor. Valus was there as well, as they both turned to acknowledge him as he entered the room. "Well, it appears the man of the hour has finally arrived," the black-armored king said, peering over to him, the only thing visible beyond the armor and the shadow that eked from it, a pair of red eyes glaring out, intensely, terrifyingly. The man carried a presence that would send shivers down basically anyone's spine. The amount of demonic energy that he put off was absolutely absurd. Enough so that it matched Mesotora's. In fact, if anyone were to be trying to hazard a guess as to whose was higher, who was more powerful, frankly, it would be hard to tell. The amount of demonic energy in that room, in that very moment as their energies intensified in each other's presence, would bring any low-level demon to their knees. They would most likely be gasping for air, struggling to even breathe in their presence without permission. No, in this room, only the strong could stand. "Brother, you're here. Thank you for answering my call," Valus replied. Valus too was donned in full armor, his a shimmering silver, with black adornments, and a long black cape that hung from him. His armor affixed with massive amounts of small blades, daggers, throwing stars. Valus was a warrior known for his speed and accuracy, able to attack at both close and mid-range in rapid haste. He was not to be taken lightly in any combat situation. However, even he knew that Mesotora was the stronger of them. "Now that you're here, brother, why don't you tell us what this visit is about? You did not send word of your coming. It is highly unusual to receive a visit from another king. So, now that we are all gathered as you requested, what is this about? Why are you here in my castle? In my kingdom?" The Black Iron King did not flinch at Valus's inquisition, his questions about why he was there. He gave him a passing glance before stepping away from them for a moment, beginning to look out of the window down upon the lands of Matara. Here at this high room of the castle, you could see basically everything. "Well, quite simply, I'm here because I have something that you want. I'm here to offer you something. Call it a gift, a favor that I'm doing for you. And in exchange for this gift, I expect to be compensated," he said, peering out of the window, not bothering to look at either of them. "I have recently received word that your son, long missing, has been detected in the world of man. Yes, of course I know. News like that is hard to keep secret. And of course I have my ways of obtaining information, even from within your city. Just as I'm sure that you have your own when it comes to obtaining information from within mine. Such is just good business, good strategy. A measure of being prepared for what the enemy might bring. But today, I'd like to think of each other as mutual acquaintances rather than enemies. This is an opportunity for me that I simply couldn't pass by. I'm going to give you something, and in exchange for it, I'll tell you exactly what I want. For years now, the kingdoms have been, well, let's say, resistant to the expansion of mine. They fear that with my own power and a larger kingdom at my disposal, that I might be too dangerous. And so, the kingdoms unite against me, preventing the expansion of my kingdom. They insist that if I press my territories outward any further, then I will receive an attack from all three of the great kingdoms aside from my own. In order for my kingdom to continue prospering, it must grow. I need more land. Not of yours, of course. But in order for this tactic to hold me at bay. It requires a unanimous vote from all three of the remaining great kingdoms. So, what I will ask is simple. At the next royal gathering, I am going to broach the topic of expanding my kingdom once more. I will seek to conquer the land of Ezrim, defeat the king, and claim the lands there. This will increase my kingdom's size by nearly a third of what it is now, and give me a great deal more asset. In fact, it will only really bring me into equilibrium with the other great kingdoms. When I broach this topic, you will give your agreeance that it will be allowed. You will not side with the others and deny me. This is what I ask in exchange for what I give, he said, finally turning away from the window, looking back towards Mesotera. Those are heavy demands, Mesotera replied. Simply allowing you to conquer an entirely different kingdom, giving you our word that we'll side with you and let it pass, that will refute the will of the other two kingdoms, in order to deny a unanimous vote. If you're asking something that absurd, then you must truly believe you have something of value, something that we'd be willing to do that for. Precisely, the Black Iron King replied. What I offer you is your son, Mesotora. I can tell you exactly how to find him. A method that will bring you directly to his location, where you can reclaim your lost son, the future king of these lands. A king in exchange for a king. It seems a fair bargain, don't you think? The Black Iron King said, raising his hand, gesturing welcomely towards Mesotera. A large amount of shadow beginning to emanate from the mask on his face, the helmet that adorned him, as those red eyes intensified their glow in his direction.